All right. Well, Gil, would you mind coming up here and introducing our speaker for us, sir?
Do that.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure to bring to you today Russell Meek. He's a pharmacist at Atkins Pharmacy. I think he first came to Marble Falls to work for Walgreens and then wound up over there with Kevin. And I've done business with Kevin ever since I got here, I think. He's going to talk to us about COVID vaccines. As you may know, Atkins is one of the hubs, presumably, but they won't send any vaccine to them. I suspect he may have some ideas about that. He and his wife have 2 children, I think ages 3 and 6. And please give a warm welcome to Russ Meek.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I've never been to a Rotary Club meeting, so it's fun. You know, I enjoy getting out in the community, meeting new people, and so thank y'all for having me here. So I wanted to start out by just kind of giving you a little brief overview about COVID-19, why it's such a big deal, and why you should care about it, and probably get a vaccine if we ever get enough to give everybody. But as of January of this year, does anybody know what the #1 cause of death in the United States is? Historically, for decades, it has been coronary artery disease. However, #1 this year is COVID-19. So it kind of puts it in perspective of how bad this pandemic really is. And just to give you a little overview of what actually happens when you get infected with COVID-19. So the first 5 to 7 days of exposure, what's called asymptomatic phase, you're very contagious, yet most people don't really know they have it until I would say about maybe 5 days after exposure is when you start having the first initial symptoms. What happens is it gets into the nasal area first, usually, which is why you have people that have loss of smell first, and sometimes that's it. But usually, it takes a couple days for it to colonize in there, at least a couple days before it moves down into the upper respiratory tract. So then you have the migration to the upper airways, which is usually when you see people who have the cough, you know, the classic non-productive cough. That's what's going on there. And a lot of times you can even have symptoms of fever, feeling tired, things like that. Just feeling a little bit sick, basically. Usually, in about 80% of people who get it, that's it. That's all you get. However, 20% can actually have it go into further into the lungs. And there's cells in the lungs that have these ACE2 receptors that this virus binds to, and basically causes it to die. And when it dies, all the inflammatory mediators in the cell that the immune system has used to try to kill the virus basically explode out of the cell and then get sucked up in the alveoli of your lungs, which is what it helps exchange oxygen with the heart and the blood. That's what really kills you, because that's what causes pneumonia, and the pneumonia is what causes the death. You basically get acute respiratory distress syndrome. You can't breathe, you're on a ventilator, you develop pneumonia, and then you die. And that is essentially how you die when you get COVID-19, which, you know, about roughly 1% of people who get infected die. So the vaccines we have now are revolutionary to anything we've ever seen with vaccines in humans. And there's basically two types. There's the mRNA vaccines, the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine. At Atkins Pharmacy, the only one we've gotten so far is the Moderna vaccine. But there is a Pfizer is very similar. And then you have the DNA vaccines, the Oxford AstraZeneca, as well as the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The way these are different is historically vaccines have taken either a piece of the actual virus or bacteria, or even a weakened live version, or basically something about the actual protein has been in a vaccine historically. This is much more precise. This takes genetic information of what your immune system actually is going to need to see to respond specifically to this virus. So in the mRNA vaccines, they've taken a piece of the genetic material for the spike proteins, and they put it in this oil ball, basically, to protect it, to actually help it get into the cell. So basically, once it gets in the cell, your body, there's these things called ribosomes that bind to the mRNA, which produce the protein. So the protein's in your cell, and then it goes to the outer part of the cell where these little pieces of the spike protein stick out, and that is what your immune system recognizes to produce antibodies, which is totally different from your traditional vaccines. So it's much more targeted, much more precise, and that is what is thought to be why it's so much more effective than what we normally see with vaccines. So the Moderna, you get one shot, 28 days later, you get another shot. Pfizer, it's 21 days later. But both of them are about 95% effective at preventing the serious COVID-19 death, or the serious symptoms of COVID-19 like you see in 20% of people. So it's 95% effective at not causing that. So, which is pretty good. As far as side effects go, typically what you see, what we have seen so far, would be like an injection site reaction where it gets a little red, a little warm, similar to like Shingrix. If y'all have ever heard of the shingles vaccine, that it's very common. Second dose, typically you see more side effects, but injection site reaction, soreness at the injection site for a couple of days, or maybe a couple of days of feeling a little bit sick. That's really it for just about anybody. I mean, as far as I know, that's all we've usually seen. And a lot of people don't even have any of those. So far, I would say it looks like it's pretty effective and pretty safe from what we've seen so far. So compare that to the DNA vaccines. They work a little bit differently, but basically they do the same thing. The DNA vaccines, like the Oxford AstraZeneca and the Johnson & Johnson, they take an adenovirus, which they get from a chimpanzee, and they put DNA instead of RNA inside of this viral capsule to protect it. Goes into the cell. The virus basically pushes the DNA into the cell, and this goes into the nucleus of the cell, where it produces the mRNA, which then does the same thing as the other vaccine. So it basically a different way to do the same thing, and we've seen about the same as far as side effects go with these. One, I guess, difference is with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, only one shot is necessary, as opposed to the AstraZeneca one, where you do have two shots, similar to the Moderna. The effectiveness isn't quite as high with these. I would, let's see, about around 65% effective. I think the Johnson & Johnson one is maybe a little bit more effective, but roughly about 65% for the DNA vaccine. So same side effect profile, not quite as effective as the mRNAs so far, but what I would say is whatever vaccine y'all get the opportunity to get first is the one you should get. That's kind of the way I think anyway. It's so important. Just get whatever you can get when you can get it. Sign up on as many lists as you can sign up on to. But that's, I guess, that's really all I had as far as the vaccines. Were there any questions?
It sounds like essentially the vaccines give you a real mild case of it so that your autoimmune system kicks in.
Well, it's not exactly the same as like say like a live vaccine. That's kind of what the live vaccine would do. This one is basically giving your immune system a blueprint to build something that'll help identify an infection if you get one. But the reason why you might feel a little bit sick is your immune system's actually being stimulated by the vaccine, and it's working to produce the antibodies. And in turn, when it does that, can make you have a little low-grade fever or feel a little tired, things like that. But it's not actually because you're getting an infection. It's the immune system is working hard to make the antibodies. Yeah.
Actually, kind of two questions. When you get the vaccine, when you do feel the symptoms, you're not at all contagious, right? Because it's not a live vaccine.
That is correct. Yep.
The other one is,
So RNA is basically what your body makes with the DNA, and then the mRNA. Or there's different types of RNA. This one is messenger RNA. That's why it's called mRNA, and then it makes a protein. The DNA, RNA, protein is kind of the chain.
So there's been lots of challenges with getting the vaccine in rural parts of Texas. Have you seen any change in that, or is it challenge? A lot of people in our county don't have to get vaccinated. It's sad.
It is sad. I think it's really disappointing. Honestly, I would have expected it to be a much more efficient process, but from what I understand is the larger areas where the infection is worse, they're getting it faster. And that's why Vernon County, which compared to a lot of other places is not that bad. And that's what I was told is the reason why we're not getting it as much as like Travis County or, you know, San Antonio even is getting it more. But I think, so yeah, to answer your question, no, it hadn't really improved yet. We're still, we got at Atkins anyways, last I heard, there's over 6,000 people on the list. We've gotten 300 doses so far, which is terrible. And I'm hoping that after more manufacturers can produce their vaccine and get approved, maybe that'll help. Because right now, like I said, it's only Moderna, but maybe once this, I just heard Johnson & Johnson got approved. So maybe once that starts distributing, as well as the Pfizer, maybe we'll see better. Yeah.
So follow-up question. Would you recommend the Johnson vaccine? That's all we can get?
Yes.
Okay.
Any vaccine you can get get it. Because yeah, it's better than not just waiting around to get specific ones. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I've had the first Pfizer vaccine. Tomorrow I take the second.
All right.
I felt bad for about 2 days. I understand the second one has a double dose from the first. Is that correct?
No, it's the same dose. It's a booster. Basically, the first one kind of primes your immune system, and then thought is after you wait, I guess in that 21 days, you get another exposure, which makes your immune system respond even more to the second one because it's already primed. But no, it's the same shot.
Can you expect that there's longer fatigue on the second one than the first one?
Yeah, probably.
There is quite a bit, I guess.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, I would say on average, most people have more side effects on the second shot. But not, I mean, for me, it was the same. It was just a sore arm. So, yeah. Yes, sir.
One thing that I've read and kind of, I guess, done my own little research about is, I've heard several people say that your RH factor in your blood, whether you're positive or negative, has some sort of effect. Several people that I know have gotten. Most people with positive RH factor, or most of the people that have had very mild symptoms, have told me they have a positive RH factor, like in the high 90%. Have you heard anything at all that makes that has anything to do with it?
I have not heard that. No, that's interesting though. Who knows? I mean, it could. I just hadn't heard about it.
It was an article or something like that about Facebook that mentioned that was a contributing factor as to how severe your symptoms. It could be a contributing factor as to how severe your symptoms were. I don't know why or how, and I've seen if maybe you've heard that.
No, but I'll look into that. That's very interesting. Yeah, could be. Yeah.
With the lack of vaccine, I'm getting my first one Saturday after being on 4 lists for months. So how can I be guaranteed that 28 days later there's going to be a shot waiting for me for my second?
Yeah. So, good question. And that's part of the problem with the distribution. But with Atkins anyway, they will get a shipment that is only designated for people for their second shot. So they are trying to guarantee that you will be given enough vaccine for the second shot for people that have already received the first. That's kind of how they're handling it. But yeah, just another related thing on that is I don't think it's that critical to wait exactly 28 days. As long as it has been 28 days, I mean, you know, you could wait. The CDC says up to 6 weeks from the second shot, probably even more than that. As long as it's not like 6 months, I think that's okay. So, I mean, even if it's delayed a little bit, I wouldn't really worry too much.
One more question: does your body hold on to these antibodies?
That's a good question, and that's a question that is being researched currently. COVID-19 hasn't been around very long, so we aren't sure how long the antibodies would last. They will wane over time, I would imagine, and we don't know if it's going to be like the flu shot where you have to get your COVID shot every year or not. But that's a good question, and it's something that's being researched right now. Yeah. So, yes, sir.
How do they come up with these effectiveness? Really to know how many people are having the inoculation.
Yeah. So these rates are based on the clinical trials. So yeah, based on roughly about 40,000 patients in the Moderna trial, anyways. They were able to calculate that effectiveness. And from what I understand so far, that seems to be holding true with how many people have gotten it so far. But it's probably something they can't know for sure yet until enough time has gone by to see that. But yeah, that's how they come up with that is the trials and just tracking those patients that were in the trial. Yes, sir. Okay. I don't know. Oh. Okay. Where's the microphone at? Oh. Okay. Does anybody on Zoom have a question? Oh, okay.
Unmuted.
It's a 75% effective rate. If
part of that 45% that may practice symptoms the same as if you didn't have a shot, or they left, or
It's a good question.
still asymptomatic?
I would think it
What
would be a lesser response if you had the vaccine and you got the infection. I'm not sure if we know that answer for sure, but yeah. Just to, I guess, another related subject is the vaccine. The reason why the CDC recommends you still wear masks even if you had a shot is they have found where you can, I guess, be an asymptomatic carrier of COVID-19 even if you've had the vaccine. Like it live in your nasal passage area without you even knowing it. So that is something that they have seen, as well as the Oxford AstraZeneca trial was interesting because they actually tracked people. So the other vaccine trials, basically, they just waited till someone got sick and then found out they had COVID. With the AstraZeneca one, they actually tracked everybody and found that there were people that got the vaccine that were positive for COVID-19 later and asymptomatic. So it is possible for you still to get COVID-19 if you've had the vaccine. But yeah, I would say it's most likely, even if you had symptoms, they would be less, and you could even not have symptoms, have it, and have the vaccine. So yes, sir.
Does the vaccine help with contagiousness at all? Like, does it, if you get it, if you got the vaccine, you still get it, does it help with maybe, not making it quite as contagious that you've heard of anything?
No, I haven't heard. I would think, you'd still be contagious even if you had it.
Marion has some. Marion has some.
Yes, the American.
Oh, did Marion have a question?
No, I'm good. I just
Okay.
could not hear the other person's question. Could you? Because they're echoing in the room. I didn't
Muddled.
hear the first question that you just answered. I couldn't hear the original question.
Oh, what was the original question?
You get the.
Oh, his question
The
was,
answer.
if you're in that percentage of people who get the vaccine and still get the infection, would your symptoms be less? And I would say yes, they would theoretically be expected to be less. And even sometimes people can get the vaccine and get it and not have symptoms. So that was I think the question you had trouble hearing. Anybody else?
How does immunity from the vaccine compare to immunity of already having had it?
It's a good question. So, how does the immunity from the vaccine compare with immunity from actually getting an infection from COVID-19? Another area of research that they're looking into to see would immunity be more longer lasting with the actual infection or with the vaccine? Historically, I would say typically the real infection of other diseases would give you a longer immunity. With COVID-19, it might be a little bit different. I have heard where like when you get infected with COVID-19, the molecule itself is really large. So your immune system is seeing all these proteins that they may not need to have antibodies to, but like they just produce antibodies to everything. Whereas with the vaccine, it's more precise to the spike protein itself, which is more important to prevent it from being infected or from your body being infected. So to answer your question, we don't know yet, but it could very well prove to be that the vaccine might give you more immunity than the actual infection.
Yeah.
We still don't know yet.
Doctor says yes.
Okay.
Sounds like the questions have run dry. Thank you very much, Russ.
No,
Thank you.
not a problem. Thank y'all for having me.
All right. Thank you, Russ. Appreciate you building all those questions for us. We had a pretty involved group this morning. Had a bunch of questions. So, all right. Well, good deal. Do we have a four-way test up?
Yep.
We do. Okay. Gil, can you listen to the four-way test, sir?
I can do that. The things-
Is it
True.
concern?
Gil,
Better friendships?
be beneficial to all concerned. Ding, ding.